There's lots of different stories about Vlad the Impaler.
I swear I will not give in.
Some of them are quite positive and say that he was a fantastic leader and respected by his enemies.
Mehmed will punish all of Transylvania for what you have done. We will not be defeated!
Vlad was a prince of a country called Wallachia, which is now Romania. Throughout history, as time has gone by, he's been remembered as Vlad the Impaler, the guy that impaled thousands of people on stakes in a field, you know, men, women, and children, and animals and everything. But that torture was actually taught to him by the Turks.
Back in the days in Europe, around the 16th century, kids from Slavic countries were taken by the Turks and raised to become like killing machines.
The Sultan requires 1,000 boys to join his Janissary Corps.
It shocked and outraged a lot of people at the time. They take boys out of these countries, indoctrinate them into their faith and into their army.
We're like mercenary soldiers. They've been taken at a very young age, between the age of maybe 8 and 12, mostly from the Balkans. They would be Christian, absorbed into the Sultan's household, treated as a family member because they're taken so young. They are ruthless, loyal. They'll kill for him. They'll die for him.
Mehmed's father took Vlad in, or stole him away from his own family to bring him up as a child warrior. But we grow up as brothers together.
Mehmed is the Sultan's natural son. Vlad was more of the son that the Sultan wanted, even though Vlad was adopted. Probably when they were growing up, Mehmed could see that the Sultan favored Vlad.
There was certainly an animosity there from very early on, you know. Vlad, you know, referred to as the Transylvanian pup, living in the house of the Sultan, and he earned the Turkish people's respect, he earned the Sultan's respect.
Vlad was the guy that if Mehmed I could have handed over his throne and his power, he would have given it to Vlad, because Vlad seemed to show all the signs of being a great leader. Young Mehmed II, on the other hand, was not that human being. He was not that person.
I think there's a certain level of jealousy and envy towards this relationship between my father and this boy.
He probably resented Vlad very much so for being the outsider that came in, gained the love of his father, and actually was doing a much better job at inheriting the throne than he was.
There's a bond between these two men, but there's a giant grudge from Mehmed to Vlad that, you know, my father liked you better than me.
And then when Vlad was old enough to leave and go back to his own people, he did. He came back to his own land as a 20-something and took his throne back and then reigned Wallachia quite successfully for quite a few years.
I've missed you.
This is the side of him that people might not know about. He had a family, he loved his wife.
What an embrace, but no kiss.
Are we going to argue?
You're always leaving on me, my Phil.
He's not just this stone wall warrior. I think with his family, he's able to become more of a human.
He's trying to live a life of peace, raise his family, and protect his people, and try to stay away from the wars that plague Europe. And of course, it's this age-old issue of can you escape your destiny?
Something troubles you. What is it?
The Ottoman Empire was on the march in this period in history, and were absolutely putting Europe in their sights.
Mehmed II created the Ottoman Empire by sacking Constantinople and ending, effectively, the Byzantine.
Turks are incredibly successful at conquering nations.
Mehmed's intention is to invade Europe, and his forces have come up through Greece, through Thrace. They would be following the Danube into Europe. He'd be moving his arms along those routes. So unfortunately for the Wallachians, for Vlad's kingdom, it's on the way to what he wants.
Vlad is motivated by a very powerful promise he made to his wife that they'll always be protected.
You asked for my hand. Do you remember what I said?
He said no.
You said things would be different. You said if I loved you, I should trust you. I love you.
And trust meets this, so we start a war.
His predicament kind of brings to mind, how much of your principle would you sell out to protect those who are important to you? Or does the end justify the means?
I will not let you die.
Vlad was a warrior, he was a leader, he was a fighter, and he was a man who stopped the Ottoman invasion of Europe. He stopped it dead in its tracks, which is a historical fact. The Ottoman Empire is something that has left its legacy, and we're very aware of it nowadays. And if it wasn't for Vlad and a few other countries, you know, England might not be England, and you know, Wales might not be Wales. It'd be a very different place.
The way I looked at it when I initially took it on was, this is a historical story. It happens to make a segue into fiction, but it has to be treated first and foremost as a history with, you know, real people and real facts.
The writers did a great job of merging the factual history, which is Vlad the Impaler, with the fictional story, which is Dracula, which we're all very aware of.
Once you drink, your thirst for human blood will be insatiable.
It's the origins story of Dracula.
Not a ghost. Something else.
As told through the lens of Vlad the Impaler, and puts it all together into an origins hero story.
I thought they did a very clever job of mixing the two and creating a story that was both appealing, inspiring, enjoyable, and also something reminiscent of something very historical.
It's heroic, which you have not seen a lot of Dracula stories that are heroic.
If you're going to start a story about such a legendary character who does exist throughout centuries, what better place to start than the beginning? It just draws you in.